Basically, my training, it's basically been the same since day one. It's very basic, simple. Just like everything else in my life, I try to keep simplicity in there as much as possible. So right now, I mean, my schedule changes, of course, with guest appearance schedules and if I have certain things to do, appointments or whatnot. So I basically train 4 days straight now. I used to train 3 days on, 1 day off. I used to train 2 days on, 1 day off. But right now, basically, I train 4 days in a row. Day one would be back and traps. Day two would be quads and hamstrings. Day three would be shoulders and triceps. And day four would be chest, abs. Basically, I train abs almost every day, and calves usually once or twice a week. And then, of course, stretching every day for 20 minutes. So that's my routine. Basically, my training is very high intensity. My workouts are very quick, but with a lot of volume, a lot of sets, a lot of drop sets. Drop sets meaning, for example, if I'm doing incline bench press for chest, I may do a set with 315 pounds on the incline barbell, crank out 8 or 9 repetitions, basically to failure. Set the weights, step up for about 5 seconds, get back on the bench, crank out 2 or 3 more. That's basically my drop sets to failure. I don't drop the weight down. I do that kind of drop sets where I don't change the weight. So high intensity training, high volume. Usually my repetition range falls between 8 and 12 repetitions. I do basically about 15 to 20 sets per body part. So that means for biceps I'll do 15 to 20 sets. For triceps I'll do 15 to 20 sets. Chest it's the same. Back I may even do upwards to 25 sets. It depends on the day. I basically go by instinct how I feel, and I train usually in the morning, one session, and then I go back in the afternoon and train a second session. And then, of course, when I'm getting ready for contest prep, I basically do 2 hours of cardio a day, upwards to 3 hours sometimes. So I'll be in the gym 4 times a day. Basically, it's 4 different sessions. I'm up. I get up all year round, basically by 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and I go to bed usually around 10 or 11 at night. And basically, my day revolves around the training schedule and just business in between, phone calls and whatnot. So it's basically the same way I've been training for years. And I think basically when you build a certain amount of muscle, it's easier to train that body part. So I really don't have any lagging body parts that I have to take extra care training. So I like to train really high intensity shock training, which basically is very quick repetition. Like I said, almost sloppy training is what I like to call it, but it's sloppy in control. And I think that really helps stimulate the deep muscle fibers that way. And basically, that's it with my training. My diet, off season to pre-contest, it's stays the same. Whereas I eat for carbohydrates, oatmeal and yams is my main carbohydrate sources, and then for proteins, I usually have egg whites, turkey, lean beef, and protein powders, some chicken, and basically I eat 6 times a day, whether it's off season or pre-contest. Except off season, I eat 6 times, 6 food meals, and then add shakes in between. So it's upwards to 12 portions. But of course, half of those are probably protein shakes. And of course, my calorie count goes way up, but not drastically. I mean, I eat somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 calories off season, whereas pre-contest I have a fluctuation. I have a high, low, medium schedule that I work with, where my calories range from 3,000 to probably 4,500, depending on what day. I like to usually go low carbs for a couple days, then maybe jump up to a high carb day, where my carbs fluctuate anywhere from the low days 50 carbs a day, with very high amounts of protein, upwards to 600 grams of protein. And then on my medium days, maybe go up to 250 carbs a day and keep my protein somewhere around 450. And then on my high days, high carb days, I usually go up to 500 or 600 carbohydrates and then drop my protein down to about 300. So where I add in the carbohydrates, I basically take out the protein, and that's basically what I do off season, where I eat a lot more carbohydrates than protein. So in the off season, I eat about 300 grams of protein a day. Like I said, coming from meat sources mainly, and egg whites, protein powders, and then basically my carbohydrate ranges from probably 600 to 1,000 carbohydrates, but it's basically pretty clean food. The only things I like to have, like after a workout, is maybe some sugar, carbohydrate drink, and of course I like to eat out. So of course we eat out, a couple times a week, and I may splurge here and there. My favorite cheap foods, are probably like sweets such as candy and some sort of like carrot cake or cookies, sugar-free frozen yogurt, fat-free frozen yogurt, and basically that's all I eat. But I stay on. I still weigh my food off season. I still carry my food when I travel, as much as I can, and of course pre-contest I'm very, very strict, where I weigh everything to a T. I have a certain time that I get up every day. I train at the same time. I eat at the same time. That's the only difference. Is I'm much more disciplined getting ready for a contest, because you have to be on the clock all the time, because any changes you make are crucial at that point, and you can actually not screw up that way. If everything's by the clock, you can adjust your diet, and if it's very simple, where you're only eating a certain amount of foods and a certain number of foods, then it's great, because when you do make adjustments, it's that much easier too. So I basically prepare all my food earlier in the morning, but basically when I eat low carbs, which is most of the time anyway, it's basically just preparing a bunch of vegetables I keep in the fridge, and then just cooking my meats meal by meal. I cook a lot of my meats on my George Foreman grill, which I use to cook my potatoes also, which I think is great. I travel with the George Foreman grill, and I think most bodybuilders do, but and of course steam all my vegetables. And the only thing I really have to make is my egg whites in the morning, which my wife usually makes for me before she heads off to work, because she gets up around 5, and by the time I get back from the gym doing my cardio, my meal's ready here, so meal one's pretty easy. And then I just basically prep my food through the rest of the day, after my training. I go do my cardio in the morning and come home, eat, go back to the gym and train, come home, eat again, sleep, eat another meal, go back to the gym, train again, come home, eat 2 more meals, and then go back to the gym for my last session of cardio, and come home, eat my last meal, which is basically protein, and then I go to bed and wake up and do it all over again the next day. So that's basically my routine for about 14 weeks. Before a contest, I start dieting, but I get real serious about 6 weeks out, where I have to really start dialing it down. I'm basically ready by 6 weeks out, but just have a little more body fat maybe on my back and my glutes, basically to take off. So it takes the extra step, whether it's increasing intensity of the cardio and making adjustments in my diet to take that body fat off, and of course attain the best condition that's possible for all these contests, because that's the name of the game in the pros now, is everyone's getting so conditioned. You have to be exactly on the money. So I think that's why it's important to weigh everything, have everything exactly. I write down everything I do, even if I go to the store to get some eggs, go to the tanning salon, which I do every day when I get ready for a show, basically starting 6 weeks out. I do everything exactly the way I should, and I write everything down. I have a journal. I have all my logs from all my contests, so I can refer back to them. Even though you have to make changes and adjustments for every show, you still have to have everything there written down, so you can refer to that and say, okay, what did I do last time? It kind of gives you guidelines and that you can follow for making adjustments in your diet and your training and your routines. So that's it, basically. those 50 grams of carbs a day fill me up.
Come on, Jay, let's go. Strong. Let's go. Yes, you got it. All the way up, let's go. Push it. Yeah, come on, focus. All the way up. Good job. Good, all the way up. Come on, push. Yeah. Good job. Almost in.
Fill the pecs up. She's kind of the backbone of my bodybuilding career. She's always supported me, and it's funny because on our first date I told her, I said when I was 16 years old I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and she didn't really even know what bodybuilding was, and honestly I didn't know what it was either, but I knew I looked like the look of the magazines, and I hadn't even touched weights yet, so I didn't even start training until I was 18. But so she supported me since day one. And basically I'll start in the beginning. I'm 27 years old. I was born August 3rd, 1973 in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is about 50 miles west of Boston. I have 3 brothers, 3 sisters. I come from a pretty large family. My parents are still alive. They live all back on the East Coast. Also her family's there. All my brothers and sisters, they still live originally where I'm from. Sterling, Massachusetts is a town I'm originally from. It's a smaller town, but I basically worked in construction when I was a kid. My family had a concrete business, so I worked from age 11 to 18 doing that. So I built a pretty good physique, and that's basically how I got involved in bodybuilding. I played football in high school, and of course toyed around with the weights a little bit. Now, I was always a strong kid. I remember going in when I was in high school and being able to bench 315 pounds the first time I ever went in there. So I was the strongest guy in my school, basically, and we had a pretty large high school of like 1,600 kids, I think, something like that. We both went to high school together. She played soccer, I played football. And so basically I wanted to wait until I graduated high school to start lifting weights because I worked so much and my diet wasn't right, and I started reading the books a little bit through high school, and then I basically joined the gym on my 18th birthday. I joined the Gold's Gym in Worcester, began weight training, really didn't know what I was doing, but just being in the gym all the time and eating a lot of food, I put on weight pretty quickly. So I started about 175 pounds, I went up to about 220, 225, somewhere around there my first year of training, and then decided to compete. Did the teen nationals, actually, my first contest when I was 19. It was in North Carolina, and I actually placed first there in the heavyweight. So I progressed pretty quickly. I was about 215 pounds for that contest. And I was fortunate when I first started, training. I didn't really know what I was doing. I asked a lot of questions, and I actually got hooked up with Chris Aceto, who still works with me on nutrition. He writes a lot for Muscle Fitness and Flex, and he's always advised me on my dieting and training. So he helped me for that teen nationals and drastically improved my body. Brought my weight down from 240 to about 215 and in very good condition. So I won that show and kind of got bitten by the bug. I went out to California, met Ed Connors of Gold's Gym, who I owe a lot of credit to. Also Luzowick from American Muscle, he helped me out quite a bit on the beginning and introduced me to bodybuilding. And Ed put me up at his house and let me train out there and work around the pros a little bit, and I learned a lot and kind of just wanted to come back, and I decided to compete back in 1995. So in 1993 I won the teen nationals. In 1995 I came back at 22 and won the Tournament of Champions out in California, just knowing that I would get the publicity that I needed, and of course, by that time I had put on drastically much more size, competed at 241 there, won the show basically piece of cake, and then everything basically started to happen. I mean, I was offered a WIDA contract. I wasn't even a professional yet, and shot with all the magazines, got my first Muscle and Fitness cover, was on the cover of Muscle Mag, you know, and my career took off. So in the next year I decided to do the Nationals. I wanted to wait a year, so in '96 I won the Nationals as a heavyweight, earned my professional status. Of course, signed a WIDA contract in '96, and I was under contract with them, you know, straight through. So, you know, Joe's backed me up quite a bit in bodybuilding, and
all the way up. Come on. All the way up. All the way down. Push.
I'm good. One more. It just dropped up to like 60.
All the way down.
4 weeks. So tired of saying 4 weeks. Every day's 4 weeks. Everyone says, oh, when's the show? Week away. So yeah, I only dream for that. I hate abs.